So I struggled with and battled with general and social anxiety. Anxiety or general anxiety is when you experience intense, excessive, persistent, and unrealistic worry and fear about everyday situations. So if I can give an example, let's say in the morning I forgot to brush my teeth. For normal people, they'd be like, okay, I'll find a way, to get fresh bread, like I'll go buy gum or something like that. But when you're dealing with anxiety, you start going into a panic now because you start thinking of like the worst situations that could come from this. So you start thinking like, oh my gosh, I forgot to brush my teeth. That means ah, all my friends are not gonna like me today, or like you just think of bad things that could happen just because you didn't brush your teeth. And social anxiety is when social situations and social interactions with other people, they cause irrational, intense, excessive, and unrealistic fear and worry. It's basically fearing embarrassing yourself in front of other people, fearing being judged by other people, fearing being rejected by other people, and fearing being the center of attention in simple terms. And both of these anxieties, both of these involve extreme feelings of worry and fear that are very, very strong, and they're strong enough to interfere with a person's everyday activity. And just to clarify, anxiety is completely, completely normal. Like there's nothing wrong with feeling a bit anxious. There's nothing wrong with experiencing a little bit of anxiety. I mean, anxiety is very good for us, but it becomes a problem when you let that anxiety control you and you let that anxiety overpower you, and it starts interfering with your life and it starts interfering with your life and it starts controlling everything that you do. And that's what I did. How did it start and how long did you go through it? It started off with, I think, worrying and stressing a lot about school, because I know that a lot of my anxiety started because of school. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I would put a lot of pressure on myself to perform a certain way, and whenever the results didn't come back the way that I wanted them to, then it will cause me to go into like a panic. It will cause me to worry and overly stress about the situation because I really needed to get those marks. And then that was the general anxiety. And then when I left high school, I no longer had the comfort of my friends, because literally everyone that I knew, we all went separate ways. I had to enter into a new space where I didn't know anyone, and I didn't know what to expect from other people. I didn't know how they were going to react to me. I didn't know whether, you just got these worries about will people like me and stuff like that. And so that anxiety then progressed into social anxiety. And I've been struggling with this for as long as I can remember. And I think the earliest date that I can give you of like when it started would be the beginning of high school, maybe, because I know even in like primary I would worry about things, but it wasn't as bad. So when it came to high school and now the pressure to perform a certain way, to get certain results so that you can apply for the thing that you want to study, that then started, it started to rile up inside of me. So high school, that's when it kicked in the most, and that's when it took the biggest toll on me. So if I can give you guys like a rough amount of time, I would say over 10 years. Yeah, I think I struggled with it for over 10 years. It was horrible. It was absolutely terrible. It affected literally everything that I did. It affected every area of my life, every corner of my life. It did not help with anything, and a lot of the situations that I found myself in, it just made those situations worse than what they actually were. I was in a constant state of worry, constant state of stress, constant state of fear. I had no peace in my life because my mind would constantly come up with scenarios of why I shouldn't do something, or why I shouldn't talk to some people, why people don't like me. And it was just a constant battle within my head. My experience with anxiety was basically like I was living in my head. Whatever my head told me, that's what I believed. Whatever my head told me, that's what I believed. It's just like it's living a life with your own head telling you that you're useless, telling you that you'll never amount to anything, telling you that whatever you try, it's never gonna work out, telling you that people don't like you, and telling you that this is why people don't like you. So it was just a constant cycle of living in that kind of headspace for like years and years. And when I say constantly, I mean every single day, every single second, 24/7, 365. I was always worried, always fearful, always stressed about something. I had no rest, I had no peace. I hated going outside, I hated interacting with people, and I just hated doing anything. It made me feel worthless, it made me feel misunderstood, it made me feel judged. Any thought, literally every single thought that I would have was always negative, telling me things like, you can't do that, you're gonna fail, that's not gonna work out, you're doing it wrong, no one likes you. That was just negativity, living in your head. So whenever people would come and say the opposite of what my head was saying, because my head, that's what I live with every single day, I wouldn't believe what other people told me. So whatever is in my head, that's what I was. That's what I believed that I was. And it brought on a lot of insecurities. I had no self-confidence. I had like, my self-esteem was super low, and all the thoughts I had about myself were completely negative. I was my biggest enemy. I was my biggest critic, and it affected everything. And I struggled a lot with it. Like, I remember like driving. When I first started driving, it was so terrible. I was always worried about, oh my gosh, what if I hit someone? What if I hit a car? What if I, turn the wrong way? What if I turn too fast? What if I turn too slow? Like, learning to drive was such a hassle. It was such a hassle. I don't even know how I got through it. But even after I got my driver's license, like, I would always be like constantly worried. I was more comfortable if someone else was driving in the car with me. I didn't want to drive alone, because I just like, what if I make a mistake and something bad happens? So it was it was just so terrible. It was just so terrible. Sometimes I just didn't want to drive at all, because I didn't want to deal with all those thoughts and all those scenarios that just came up in my head. And when it came to friendships and socializing, that was the worst. That was the absolute worst. A lot of my social anxiety, it was, that the social anxiety is centered around other people's opinions of me. So like, when it came to my friendships, I lost a lot of friends because of it. Because a lot of my friends, I was like, the people that I kept close to me were the people that I was the most comfortable with. So because I was comfortable with them, I would constantly want to be around them, because I found comfort in their presence. But not everyone sees it like that. So to them, it seemed like I was being clingy. I know that I would also like I'd like need reassurance like from them. So I'd like ask people like, yeah, you still like me, right? You still like me, right? So I'd like constantly want this reassurance to ensure that like, okay, they're not judging me, they don't hate me. And that behavior can seem very strange, not normal, and clingy to other people. So like, they would distance themselves from me. And when I started to see that hurt, because of what I was going through, it hurt. So then I started isolating myself. I started to isolate myself, and I hated interacting with other people. And whenever new people tried to come into my life, then I'd block them off immediately. Like, even like really nice people, like people who like wanted to be my friend, but I would always like come out with an excuse like, no, this and this. I know there were a lot of people, like really nice people, guys. They would like text me, it's like, you should go out sometime, we should go out and do this, and I'll just be like, no, I'm busy with this right now, I can't right now, I have a school project due, this, just because of what I was going through. So yes, I lost a lot of friends, and I pushed a lot of people away. So being by myself just made much more sense. It was more comfortable, because it was just easier than going out to certain social situations and hanging out with some people and like having your own mind attacking you the whole time. So I just thought that let's just avoid having to feel that way and just stay by myself. In terms of school, it affected my school as well. I put a lot of pressure on myself to get certain marks that I needed, to carry on with life. So it was very, very draining. Sometimes it would get so overwhelming that I would just shut down completely and I wouldn't do anything. Because I know, like, a lot of the times we'd get like tests and assignments and all these things all at once. And like, because it's so much all at once, and like I'm pressuring myself, I'm so stressed and worried that I need to do well in all these things, and because of that overwhelmingness and that stress, I just shut down completely. And I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything about it. It was terrible, y'all. It was honestly, it was very, very terrible. It's not something that I wish upon anyone, and it was very hard. It was very, very hard to overcome it, because a lot of my identity was founded in the fact that I was anxious. I had anxiety. I loved having anxiety, because it gave me an excuse not to do things. It gave me an excuse not to put any effort in relationships because I liked being alone, or it gave me an excuse not to go out and stuff like that. So like, I enjoyed it because it gave me comfort, but at the same time I was suffering because of it. Because as much as I liked being alone, I also wanted to have like all these different types of friendships and relationships. I also wanted to experience the fun that people have in friendships. I wanted to experience, what the things that people go through. So I'd like, because I live with my brother in university, so like I see him, because he's more social than me. I would see him inviting his friends over, going to his friend's house, see him posting him and his friends going out, and I'd like, yo, bruh, I wish I could do that. But then my mind would come back at me with reasons of why I couldn't, of why I shouldn't, of why I don't have friends, why people don't like me, why I'm like this. So like, it was hard in that sense, because you see other people enjoying friendships, you see other people enjoying other people's presence, you see other people enjoying life worry free, and here I am, my whole life is built on worry. My whole life is built on stress. My whole life is just anxiety. So yes, it was very, very hard. It really was. And the anxiety was so hard to control. It was so hard to control. It was very, very hard to control. And a lot of the behaviors that it would bring on is not behaviors that I wanted to do, but it's behaviors that I couldn't help myself doing, because I needed to do them in order to ease the tension, to ease the emotions that came with being anxious. I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly when it happened, but in the last 2 to 3 years, I've actually seen a big shift in my life. I've been more happier. I'm not as stressed. I'm not as worried. Like the thoughts that come into my head, if thoughts do come into my head, then I know how to like counter those thoughts with the Bible. I know how to counter those thoughts with what God says about me. So I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, that's when I've started to become like completely free of it. It took me a while to get to this point where I can actually say that I have a problem and I need help, and so it took me a while to get over it as well, because of that, and the fact that I found identity in it. I enjoyed being anxious because it gave me an excuse not to do anything, but because it started to hurt me, it started to like actually affect me negatively. I could get to the point where I can say, no, this is a problem, I have a problem, and I need help. And God has helped me a lot to get through this, because I know that I could not do it by myself. I tried doing it by myself, but I kept failing. I kept failing. And when I finally actually really gave it to God, that's when I could actually see the shift taking place. And I think because in the last 2 to 3 years I've been at home, it has also helped me a lot because I'm interacting with a whole lot of people, unlike when I was in university where I could just go to my room and that's the only one I had to deal with is myself and my brother, who I was comfortable with, so I had no problem with that. So me being at home has actually helped a lot with that, because even like now I'm at home but I deal with a lot of people. I have to interact with other people, like there's no avoiding it at all, so I've had to adjust to that. So I think being at home also helped a lot with that. I think another way of how is because I spend a lot of time with Jesus. I spend a lot of time with Jesus, reading the word, praising him, praying, thanking him as well. I got to see myself the way that God sees me. I got to know who I was in Christ. I read and heard about what God says about me, what he created me to be, who he created me to be, and the things that I'm capable of because of the power that he has instilled inside of me and the Holy Spirit that he has given me to help me. So that helped a lot, is spending time with God, reading his word, and just being in his presence. His presence can do wonders for your life. I know that a lot of the times when I'm feeling a certain way and I come into God's presence, I always come out feeling so much better. I always come out feeling like the weight has been lifted. So that has helped me a lot. Another way I think that I got delivered, or that helped me get delivered, is the fact that I learned to say yes to the things that scare me, and I started to say yes to the things that I found uncomfortable. So I would say yes to opportunities that would come in my direction. The more I said yes to the thing that made me uncomfortable, the more comfortable I became around it. Number 1, don't find identity in it. Don't find identity in it. Don't think that whatever your mind says about you, whatever your experience is, don't think that that's all that you can be. One of the reasons why I suffered for so long is because I found identity in it. It's because I found comfort in it. Because I liked being called someone who was going through anxiety, because it gave me an excuse not to do things. It gave me an excuse not to interact with other people. But at the same time, it limited me a lot, because it would stop me from doing things that I actually wanted to do, and it would stop me from growing spiritually. It will stop me from growing individually, like as a person. It would stop me from growing mentally as well, and emotionally. So as much as you may be finding comfort in it right now, it is also making you uncomfortable, because that's what I went through. As much as I was comfortable in it gave me an excuse not to do things. I was also uncomfortable because like my spirit wants to grow, but I won't let him. So now he is trying to grow in like this. It's like, let's say you get like a small box, right? You're the small box, and you get a balloon. The balloon is the Holy Spirit, and me blowing air into the balloon is going to be God. So now, like, when God is blowing air into the balloon keeps expanding, but now it's limited by this box. So now it keeps expanding, but the box is restricting it. Like, you on the inside want to grow, but that anxiety is not letting it grow. So you're gonna be uncomfortable in your own skin because of the fact that you don't want to let go of this identity that you have, this identity that you have created for yourself in anxiety. So don't find your identity in it. Don't find comfort in it. Understand that you are uncomfortable. Admit that you are uncomfortable. Admit that you need help. Admit that it is a problem and you need to be set free from it. The second thing that I can advise you guys is to spend time with God. Please spend time with God and ask for his help. Anxiety has a lot to do with your thoughts, and believing those thoughts. And in order for you to fight those thoughts and to get out of that mindset, that headspace, is for you to spend time with God and get to know who you are in Christ, who you are, who God created you to be. Hear and read what God thinks about you, not what your mind is telling you that you are, not what the things that you are feeding yourself is telling you that you are, but let God hear what God thinks about you. Because at the end of the day, God is your creator. God is the one who made you. So he knows everything about you. He made you the way that you are for a reason. So those thoughts in your mind, they are feeding you lies. They are feeding you lies. And the biggest way, the biggest contributor, the biggest way that the enemy like tries to like hold you down, tries to get you chained up, tries to belittle you and discourage you, is by putting thoughts in your mind. So if you are constantly feeding those thoughts, you're gonna stay in that constant space of fear, worry, and anxiety. So you need to give it to God. Come to God and understand that God is the one who created you. So he is the only one who's allowed to have an opinion of you. He is the only one who's allowed to have an opinion on you. So don't let anyone that is not God define you or tell you what you can and cannot do. The biggest contributor to how I got delivered is finally understanding who God says that I am and understanding who he created me to be. I think the third piece of advice that I can give you is tell someone and ask for their help. It's okay to ask people for help, and it's okay to even go to professionals for help. Guys, there's nothing wrong. As a Christian, there's nothing wrong with you going to a psychologist, a psychiatrist for help. Honestly, God created every single person on earth. He created all the different occupations, so he would not create something that is not necessary. As much as you need a doctor for your physical health, you also need a psychologist for your mental health. So don't be scared. Like, if it's really, really bad, don't be scared to go seek professional help. There's nothing wrong with seeking professional help as a Christian. And also, like, tell someone about it as well. Like, if you have good, proper friends around you, please don't be afraid to let them know of what you're going through. Let them know of what you're going through. You can't receive help if you're not willing to expose yourself, if you're not willing to be vulnerable about what it is that you're going through. Like, no one is just going to look at you and just automatically suss out that no, there's a problem here. Not everyone has that skill. Not everyone is capable of telling. Like, a lot of us anxiety people, well, I'm not there anymore, but like a lot of like people who go through anxiety, because they don't want to cause a scene, because they don't want attention, they are very good at hiding what they're going through. So if you know that you can hide, how do you expect someone else to see that there's a problem with you unless you actually say it out? So don't be afraid to tell someone, your friends, of what you're going through. Don't be like me. Like, I really tried so hard to go through it alone, and it was the loneliest thing I've ever done. It was very tough. It was very tough. But I'm just so glad that I had friends who, even though they didn't know what I was going through, they would constantly be around me. So that helped a lot, because these people, they would constantly come to my room to visit me in my room. They would be inviting people, and they would invite me to go join them in their things. And so that, like, I think that helped a lot. So I'm very, very grateful to those people, because as much as I liked being alone, I also liked having them around. And with having them around, it came with other people being around. And when they would invite me to these things, a lot of the times I wouldn't even know that we're going to places with other people. But we'd get there and hear these people, and now I kind of have to interact with these people. And then it actually like made me see that not everyone is bad. So I'd like interact with these people, and I would actually enjoy interacting with these people, all because of my friends. So I'm very, very grateful to those people. And don't be afraid to tell your friends of what you're going through. Don't be like me. Don't try to do it on your own, because sometimes, as much as you want to do it on your own, sometimes you're gonna need someone to lean on. You cannot. It's very draining and it's very strenuous, and for you to want to go through that battle on your own, you're gonna fall. And you're not gonna have anyone to help you get up again. So you're gonna stay in this pit of distress and surrender. So don't be afraid to tell someone about what you're going through. Just allow someone in, and let them help you the best that they can. Number 4, try to push yourself to do the thing that scares you. Learn to put yourself in situations that you may find uncomfortable, or find very scary, but just put yourself out there and try new things. Don't be afraid to say yes to things that scare you or things that make you uncomfortable, but do your best to push yourself to get into that situation, because the more you put yourself in that situation, the more comfortable you will get, the more confident you will get, and so on and so forth. And the less worried you become, and the less stressed you become. And then the last piece of advice that I can give you is to find the core of your anxiety. Like, find the reason behind why you're anxious. Find the cause of it. Like, what is it built upon? For me, it started off as school, and then it progressed into people. So I know where to start, or like I know what the problem is, and so it's better for me to find a solution when I know what the issue is. So find the core of your anxiety, understand, like try to find why it is that you're anxious. Why are you like battling with these emotions? Why are you so overwhelmed and stressed and worried about about 1, 2, and 3? Find the why behind it, and then you'll be able to find a solution for it. It's like, it's like when you take a car to the mechanic. When your car is making noises and you take it to the mechanic needs to look at what is making the noise, why it's making the noise, before he can actually like fix it and try to find the correct parts for that thing. So find the core of your anxiety.